So I know I was supposed to do this on live stream, which I will still be live doing my uh, video on stuff wrestling related, and that will be coming soon. But I figured I would do this pre-recording because I owed it to y'all to do my results about Raw. And while Raw was stacked this week, I want to highlight one of the most recognized moments of Raw, and that was the Raw debut of Penta, aka Pentagon Junior, aka Penta Gon Zero Mero, El Zero Mero, who made his debut this week on Monday Night Raw on Netflix, and why it's such a pivotal moment for wrestling in general, along with him. So I want to talk about that. This is according to Fightful Select, within this picture, which is a link from Twitter, from the source from Fightful Select, from PW Chronicle. It states, among WWE talent spoken to, they claim they didn't hear any heat of Penta after going too long in his debut last night on Raw. Uh, Most everyone were aware that the moment meant to him and his family, and the roster was happy for him. Here's the thing. Penta's debut is a big fucking deal. And I don't think anybody realizes that Penta's debut is an iconic moment for lucha wrestling, along with for him. Um, many wrestlers, many wrestling fans who are familiar with the content from early on in AEW may be familiar with Penta, along with his brother Ray Phoenix, also known as the Lucha Brothers. Now, if I'm correct, and I'm going off of the sources from what Fightful has stated, Phoenix is still going to be making his debut in WWE. It may be still speculated, I think. However, as of right now, he's dealing with an injury situation. The injury complication is what's complicating of why he's not in WWE right now. So hopefully later down the line, Hugh will be making his debut as well. But as of right now, they're focusing on Penta's debut. Um, Literally that night on Raw, during his entrance, Michael Cole even said it on a commentary, it's the worst kept secret. Now, I want to mention about that because it also brings up another situation that many people are a little bit upset about that happened early leading up to the debut of Raw. On the WWE social medias, they also posted a day early of Penta announcing Penta's official WWE merch that was posted on social media. And there were several unestablished, wrestling influencers. Ones that I call them not established because they're not known. They're mostly on social media to some lacking of sense of it. They were upset at the fact of this happening because they were like, "You're way to go, WWE! You basically announced about Penta's debut way before he even showed up." Um, like, even if you look at the picture, even on the side here on this link, it shows a picture of Roman with a confused face. Someone saying WWE looking at the admin posting this. Tell me you don't know how the wrestling business works without telling me how the wrestling business works. We were already aware, whether it was Fightful, whether it was Busting Open, whether it was even from Wrestling Observer, fuck David Meltzer, who stated about confirming that Penta and Phoenix were going to come to WWE. It was already well established. The promos even made it easy to know of him coming to WWE. So if you were not well aware of that circle of people established to find this out, you were out of the loop. It's just as way crazy as, and I will get to this, something that I saw on AEW's end with a certain wrestler that's supposed to be happening within this week that I'm making by the time I make this video. Um, Anyways, the fact that uh, it was already established Penta was going to be coming to WWE. It was already established. So for people to say that, oh, we didn't, WWE is not trying to hide it well. It's just worst kept secret sense of it before that. And I'm like, but it was already established. That's why they made the post about his gear, of his wrestling merch. It was already established. Now, so like I said, some of these influencers don't know how the wrestling works. The ones that I know at least knows how the wrestling works. Conman, Santi, Wheezy, Ross and the Clutch. They all know. They all know. Now, I want to bring up something else that is a situation on that too. And that is when it came to Penta's debut, because that is the most important thing about it. I'm going to go off of what David LaGreca and Bully Ray said on Busted Open when it came to Penta's debut. Now, on their perspective, from what Penta and them and what they saw, is that Penta was able to do a promo um, about how much this moment meant to him coming to WWE with his family in the front row. And he basically states about the fact, in language, in Spanish, he does the promo in Spanish. Let me make that very clear. David Greg is like, I didn't understand it. I don't know how to speak English, but that promo was just so powerful. It invested me more than the match. I'm going to say this. I understand his years of experience of talking about wrestling and commentation in the sense of it, along with Bully. But I'm going to tell you right now, that match was fire. That match was fire. Penta was the hype. I have been a fan of Penta, and tells you how much I know about Penta's legacy. Real fans who know about Penta know about his career from Lucha Underground. Early in the years when once upon a time, if I want to say that correctly, when there was a channel, the channel El Rey Network, El Rey Network channel, which was funded by Robert Rodriguez, the guy who directed Kill Bill Volume 2, who did From Dusk Till Dawn, started a wrestling promotion company for his love of lucha wrestling. And that company and that promotion was called Lucha Underground. And Lucha Underground had some of the biggest names in Lucha Libre wrestling getting a chance to highlight themselves, getting a chance to be marketed in their career. And anyone with a brain in London wrestling would have seen this company. This company was stacked. Many of the wrestlers that we know now were all in this company. Like I said, Phoenix, his brother, Conan, John Morrison, also Johnny, aka Johnny AEW, Johnny Elite, Johnny Impact. He goes on different ones. Chavo Guerrero, and many others were on this company. Rey Mysterio, that's right, Rey Mysterio was part of this company. Io Shirai and Kairi Sane of Damage Control were part of a faction on this company. Who else was on there? Vampiro, I forgot about. But one of the highlight. Both Ricochet and Swerve were part of the company under Lucha Mask. Ricochet was part of a faction, was a lucha wrestler called Prince Puma, and Swerve was named Killshot. Both of them were in Lucha Underground. But do you know who the highlight of Lucha Underground was? Penta fucking Gon. That's right. He was the highlight of Lucha Underground. That man made Lucha Underground what it was. It is one of my favorite things of it. And I've stated this on social media before, but I will also make this very clear because I wanted this to run back. Because here's Penta with Prince Puma, a.k.a. Ricochet. One of my favorite matches in Lucha Underground from Penta's career. I love, the second one is him against Rey Mysterio, but here's my first favorite. It's him with Chelsea Green. So at one moment, Chelsea Green was part of Lucha Underground under the name Reclusa. Reclusa was her name in Lucha Underground, and she and Penta had a match. It was a banger. This match made me officially a Chelsea Green fan. If there is any match in Chelsea's entire wrestling accolade career that tells you what is the match that made you want to be a Chelsea Green fan, it's her match against Pentagon. 100%. That match was incredible. Chelsea really showed out in this match. If you told me that this girl and Pentagon were we're in a banger of a match together. You ever thought uh her and him just if you really think if there was any proof that intergender wrestling could exist in WWE in the right way, it would be confirmed with this match. Chelsea held her fucking own in this match with Penta. And Penta did such a good job with this match with her. It was so riveting. I loved this whole thing front to back. It's one of my favorite matches from Chelsea of all time. It's the match. While her character in this promotion is entirely different from what we know of Chelsea Green now, this match was still one of my favorite bangers because if there was any woman who could go toe to toe with Penta in this situation, it's this one. And I love the fact that Cultaholic did an interview with her stating about when she felt about Penta coming to WWE. And she's like, I'm ready to go again. We can go again. Now, we all know WWE's not going to let that happen, unfortunately. Because, like I said before, and Alex Kane stated this as well. Shout out to the Suplex Assassin himself. Intergender wrestling in WWE doesn't exist. It does not. AEW has a higher chance of doing it. TNA has a higher chance of doing it. But WWE will not do that. With the damage that they had done with women in wrestling, they don't want to go to a point where they're going to make it offensive in that sense of it. And they will find people who will find that offensive, unfortunately. So, yeah. So if you're expecting to have a rematch between her and Penta, no. There might be an encounter between her and Penta, but it's not going to happen. I wish it would. I would love for it to happen, but unfortunately, it won't be the case. But yeah, that match made me officially a Chelsea fan. Now, Penta's career in Lucha Underground made me a fan of his. So when he came to AEW, I came with expectation to know of how awesome it is. I will say the one lackluster match that I wish would have been a little bit better was his match against CM Punk. I wished it would have been better. I only hope that they run it back and they'll do it better with the people established in WWE that will make it a little bit better. That's my only hope. But yeah, I blame AEW for that match not going the way it did. So that's my thing. But I want to go back to the promo that Penta gave in his speech in WWE. Because that is most important. It's very important of that match, of that situation. His First of all, kudos for WWE, even if it was because they are on Netflix. Kudos for them for letting him do the promo on his own, not interviewing him. Shout out to Alex Albrajedes. I love that he was the mouthpiece for Penta and AEW. Because like everyone remembers Penta says. I love that that's always been ingrained in my mind. I mean, I'm happy for what he's doing with Commander. I love that he's doing that with Commander now. But it will always be a part of me with his run in AEW, with Penta's run in AEW, that being some of the things with promo with him and Alex. Because he's getting that out and he's saying everything to and Penta, and everybody's like, Penta says, and we're expecting Alex to say that. So shout out to Alex Albrajedes. But for him to do his promo and he's able to speak in his native language to the audience in San Jose, which is a very, very dominant Mexican area, is an amazing thing. And him speaking to his family, speaking to the people, speaking to the fans of his native fans is an amazing thing. I have seen several videos from Spanish speaking wrestling influencers who are tearing up seeing this. This is iconic of a moment, and I'm hoping that this is the start of now WWE is going to do what they should have done with the Lucha Brothers, what they should have done with Sin Cara, what they should have did with Ultimo Dragon, what they should have done with Kalisto, because every single one of them, WWE has dropped the ball with their lucha wrestling. They have. Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar literally are the two, as of right now, along with Dragon Lee, that WWE is trying to make sure that they do not fuck it up with their lucha wrestlers. Every single one of those wrestlers I said before have had opportunity after opportunity of doing things to make a mark in the WWE, and they every time they screw it up. Grand Metallic as well. I would also consider with Lucha Dragons or Lucha Party, Lucha Libre Party. They have missed the mark every time with those lucha wrestlers. They cannot fuck it up with Penta. They cannot. AEW made mistakes with Penta, which led to this situation. They cannot screw this up, because if they do, it's going to be very, very damaging. Now, there are some things I won't bring in faction first. First of all, another thing I want to bring up. Good for them for not putting him in LWO. At first, that was my expectation, was going for LWO. I was like, okay, if he's there, LWO. Not every lucha wrestler needs to go to LWO. I understand you're trying to market for the Hispanic community, the Latina community, but I guarantee you they're not going to be okay with that. They want to have at least a few of those wrestlers from their cultural perspective to stand on their own. Penta can do that. He doesn't have to. Now, if it means every once in a while he teams up with most of those wrestlers, like there's a moment he'll team up with LWO, Dragon Lee, or he'll team up with Andrade, yeah, that's fine. But don't put him in the faction. Do not put Penta in the faction. He can stand his own. Andrade is lucky enough to get where he is right now if it wasn't for him being likable and what they weren't able to do with him in WWE before, and the big mark he was able to get in AEW, and of course his marriage to Charlotte Flair. However, outside of that, that man deserves a lot more than he's getting right now. But he associated with the LWO to a certain extent of it. So he doesn't have to. I'm glad they didn't do it. They're like, okay, we'll team him up, but we won't have him part of LWO. Good for that. Carlito, I don't see how anything good with him for Judgment Day. He should have stayed with LWO. It made better with him in LWO because of his vintage legacy in the sense of it. So, but he's not a lucha wrestler either, so that makes sense of it. But when it comes to, and then Santos Escobar, I personally, I understand the fan base from NXT liking him with Legado del Fantasma. That makes sense. But you see where that is now, right? Other than Elektra Lopez being simped at, the Rose and Garza are doing things more on their own as a tag team. They're not really doing much as considering themselves part of the faction. So, not every Latino wrestler or every Hispanic wrestler needs to be in a faction, but then again, many of them don't need to be solo either. It's a mixed bag. And some of them don't need to be in factions that don't really associate with them in the same way. Carlito sticks out like a sore thumb in Judgment Day. He does. I'm sorry. I don't see why. It doesn't make sense. But at the same time, wrestlers like Dominic Mysterio, it makes sense. So yeah, if it means a one-off team up with Rey or a match with Rey or Andrade or Dragon Lee, yeah. But Penta can be on his own, at least till his brother arrives. So this is going to be a good moment for him. But hopefully this week on Raw with his debut and his promo, which was very sincere and very amazing, hopefully this is a sign that they will be doing it right, marketing this man, because they really need to not fuck this up. Because with the legacy that he has made from his AEW run and Lucha Underground, it's going to be very iconic to see the matches he has. Now, I will also agree with everyone else when it comes to Chad Gable, who he fought with that Monday on Raw, his debut. As much as I'm not a fan of Chad Gable, and I never was a fan of Chad Gable, not even when he was American Alpha, I was a fan of Chad Gable, or when he was Shorty D, I will say he held his own. He did good helping bring out the best of Penta in the match. I truly believe that they did a good job. He did a good job in what he was able to do on helping get Penta the boost of success that he has now to build up. And if you're not familiar with Penta then, or if you're from back then, you need to be familiar with him now. I will say this every time when it comes to people like Penta or Ray Phoenix. If you have not watched any of the archives from Lucha Underground of Penta's career, please watch that because you will see the broadness of what he is able to capably exhilarate in his career of his work. But you'll also understand with that high caliber of what he's able to do in those matches, they're going to water him a little bit down in WWE because you have to remember with companies like Lucha Underground and AEW, those were marketed for adults fans. WWE has had a network for years of getting a lot of attention for the younger audience. And while there is still some rated R stuff that's going to be happening in the company, they're still going to water it down to some extent of it to a limitation where it's like, oh yeah, you know, my kid can watch this because he's seen blood. My kid knows a swear word is not a good thing when we're watching it with him. Still with adult supervision, if you understand that. To them to understand and learn. However, at the same time on that sense of it, their limitation on that still to some extent. And that's what's going to happen with Penta. So the first thing I saw a while back when it was announced that he was coming to WWE, I saw 2 or 3 videos where people were basically saying, I hope we get the Lucha Underground version of Penta. And I've had to shut that down very, very quickly. Because as much as I love the Lucha Underground version of Penta, we're not getting that Penta. We're not getting that Penta. I mean, hell, AEW was nice enough to give us a moment where he got to revive his graveyard persona, Penta Obscuro, which he rarely uses. They did it for 1 or 2 matches when he resurrected himself as Penta Obscuro. That was a rare moment that happened. So we were lucky to get that, let alone we're getting Penta in general. So I want people to understand that, especially if you are a newcomer to Penta, if you have not been familiar with Penta's work. I also feel if Lucha Underground isn't your thing and you want what we're going to get with Penta, but on a more sharpened edge of a sense of it, if you want to know what Penta you're going to be getting, watch any of the archives of work of Penta and his brother, Ray Phoenix, in AEW. As much as I know, many of you probably are not an AEW fan. I guarantee you, if you watch the stuff that he does in AEW, you will understand why this is a big deal. They made a few mistakes in AEW. AEW cannot afford to mess it up on that sense. So with that being said, I'm excited for Penta. I definitely will be buying one of his masks because I definitely do need to get some more wrestling merch a little bit. I am excited for what they're going to do with Penta. I'm excited to see what matches they're happening. Like I said before, the only match I know that will never happen is Penta running it back with Chelsea Green. But I would love to see him run it back with Punk. I would love to see him run it back with Ray from the Lucha Underground days. I would love to see him run it back with some of the people he's worked with over the years from indies and such. I'd love to see him run it back with Andrade. I think him and Andrade would be a good rivalry because, like Santos, Andrade came from a Lucha Libre background and molded himself to being a wrestler, a legit Mexican wrestler with admirable skill. And the same happened with Santos because both of them come from Lucha Libre backgrounds and evolved themselves to making names themselves without the mask, but they still associate the mask. It's why they both come out wearing masks, but then take them off because they both are saying to themselves, we started with this, but this is what you're getting now. At least that's what I think it is. Any Mexican knowledgeable wrestling fan out there who can correct me on that, feel free to do that. So my question is what wrestling match do you want to see Penta go out? Who do you want to see Penta mix it up with in the WWE? Who do you want to see him mix it up with? And do you think we should run it back with wrestling matches like him and Ray or him and Punk? Let me know in the comments below.